You need to leave, Dad. I can't keep doing this anymore. It's my house now. That's what my daughter, Lily, said to me, standing in the kitchen I built with my own 2 hands. My name is James Miller, 73, from Austin, Texas. I've heard plenty of cruel words in my life, but nothing cut like those. The room smelled of the roast I'd made for dinner, but the warmth was gone. The plates sat untouched on the table. She wouldn't even sit down. I looked at her. Really looked. Her arms crossed, eyes sharp, voice trembling just enough to tell me this wasn't anger. It was exhaustion. But it didn't matter. The words still hit their mark. Did I do something wrong? I asked. My voice came out calm, too calm. She sighed. Dad, it's not that. It's just, you being here, it's hard. You criticize how I run things. You fix stuff I didn't ask you to fix. You make it feel like you're still in charge. I didn't know keeping the place running was a crime, I said quietly. It's not, she snapped. Then she caught herself, softening. But I need my space, my life. You can't live here forever. Forever. The word echoed. I'd only been staying with her since my surgery, 6 weeks, maybe 7. Long enough to heal, I thought. Not long enough to become a burden. I glanced around the room. The table I'd built for her wedding gift. The cabinets I'd installed myself when she first bought the house, my house once. I sold it to her below value because I wanted her to start her life right. Now, apparently, I'd overstayed my welcome. I took a breath, slow and steady. All right, I said. I'll go. Her face softened with guilt. Dad, don't make it sound like that. How should I make it sound? I asked. She didn't answer. She just turned away, busying herself with clearing plates that hadn't been touched. I stood there watching her move around the kitchen, the same way her mother used to when she wanted to hide her emotions. I reached into my pocket and felt the small gold band I'd worn since my wife passed. I slipped it off and rolled it between my fingers, the metal warm from my skin. I'll be fine, I said finally. You don't have to worry about me. She stopped mid-motion. Where will you go? I gave her a faint smile. I still have my truck. It's old, but it runs. Dad. But I'd already picked up my jacket. Don't worry, Lily. You've got your space now. Her eyes filled with something, regret maybe. But she didn't stop me. I walked out the front door without another word. The night air hit hard, cool and heavy. My old pickup sat parked by the curb, the same one that carried lumber and tools for 20 years of my life. It had always been there when people let me down. I climbed in, closed the door, and sat for a moment in the dark. Through the windshield, I could see the porch light still glowing. The one I wired myself the night Lily was born. I'd wanted her to come home to light, no matter how late she stayed out. Now it was the only light left for me, even if it wasn't mine anymore. I leaned back in the seat and whispered, "You built this place for her, James. Now it belongs to her mistakes." The engine ticked softly in the cooling night. I reached into the glove box for an old blanket and instead found an envelope I hadn't noticed before. My wife's handwriting stared back at me in blue ink. For Lily, when she forgets her roots. I froze. The paper felt fragile, older than I remembered. I didn't open it. Not yet. Some things wait for the right kind of silence. I placed it on the dashboard, pulled the blanket over my lap, and watched the house until my eyes blurred. That night, I slept in my truck outside the home I built. The home that no longer had room for me. The night was colder than I expected. Texas cold isn't sharp like up north. It's quiet, creeping. the kind that settles into your bones while you pretend you're not shivering. I pulled the blanket tighter and stared through the windshield at the porch light. It was still on. She hadn't turned it off. Maybe that meant something. Maybe it didn't. The engine clicked as it cooled, that slow, metallic sound of something that's worked too hard for too long. It reminded me of myself. I leaned my head against the seat, eyes half open, watching the shadows move across the house. My house once, hers now. I could still picture her there as a kid, running down that porch with scraped knees, yelling, "Daddy, watch me." I'd built those steps when she was 6. She used to help, handing me nails and calling herself Dad's little assistant. Now that same porch felt miles away. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, cold, composed, too much like her mother when she was trying not to cry. Ellen had that same look the night before she passed. "Promise me," she'd said. "Promise me you'll give Lily space to grow, even if it hurts." I didn't realize that promise would someday mean sitting outside my own front yard, too old to start over and too proud to knock. Around 2 a.m, a motion light flicked on near the garage. For a split second, I thought she'd come out. Maybe to check if I was okay, maybe to say something she couldn't before. But it was just a cat. The porch light stayed on. I reached for the envelope on the dashboard. Ellen's handwriting, soft and slanted, still beautiful after all these years. For Lily, when she forgets her roots. I turned it over in my hands, tracing the edges. The glue had yellowed, the paper stiff from time. I could almost hear Ellen's voice again, that calm certainty she always had. She must have written this years before she passed, maybe knowing one day Lily would drift too far. But I couldn't open it. Not yet. Not when my emotions still felt like open wounds. I set it back on the dash and looked at the house again. The curtains in Lily's room were drawn, the faintest sliver of light sneaking through the bottom. She was awake. Maybe she couldn't sleep either. I wanted to believe she was looking out at me, that she saw the truck and remembered what it meant. But even if she did, pride would keep her from stepping outside. Pride's funny like that. It keeps you standing tall until you realize no one's there to hold you steady. The clock on the dashboard read 3:11 a.m. I rubbed my hands together for warmth and whispered, "You did what she asked, Ellen. You gave her space. But tell me, how much space does love survive?" The truck was silent except for the ticking of the clock. I thought of all the nights I used to tuck Lily in, how she'd ask me to leave the hallway light on, so the house doesn't feel lonely. Now it was me keeping the light on for her. By dawn, the sky turned the faint color of steel. My breath fogged the window as I watched her front door, still closed, still locked. I started the truck just to hear the engine run, the sound of something that still worked. The rumble filled the empty street, low and steady like a reminder that I hadn't disappeared yet. I took one last look at the porch before whispering, "All right, kiddo. You've got your space." But my hand stayed on the wheel, not moving, because sometimes driving away feels harder than staying still. By morning, the sun spilled over the roof like it always did. Soft, familiar, almost kind. I sat there in the truck, watching light crawl up the siding of the house I built from the ground up. Every nail, every board, every inch of that place had a memory buried in it. I still remember the first day we broke ground. Lily was just 5, running barefoot in the dirt, her laughter chasing the sound of my hammer. Ellen stood on the porch of our half-built dream, a cup of lemonade in her hand, calling out, "Don't forget, you're building her future too." Back then, the idea of her future sounded like a promise. Now it felt like the reason I was parked outside instead of inside. The house wasn't just wood and paint. It was where we celebrated birthdays, patched up scraped knees, and watched thunderstorms from the living room window. It was where Lily learned to ride her first bike down the driveway. I can still hear her yelling, "Don't let go, Dad." Funny thing is, I never really did. Even when I signed over the deed to her name, I thought I was doing the right thing, giving her stability, something solid in a world that changes too fast. I never imagined that same signature would become the line between belonging and exile. I got out of the truck, stretching stiff legs, and walked to the edge of the yard. The grass had grown uneven since I stopped mowing it myself. The rose bushes Ellen planted by the porch were still there, though half wilted. I bent down and brushed the leaves with my hand, whispering, "She doesn't take care of them like you did." A neighbor across the street waved. Old Mrs. Patterson. She'd seen me build this house 25 years ago, watched Lily grow up here. She gave me a sad smile, the kind that says more than words. I just nodded. The smell of fresh coffee drifted faintly from an open kitchen window. For a second, I almost went up to knock, to ask for a cup, maybe even an apology. But the thought passed as quickly as it came. Instead, I circled around to the back. The wood fence was still sturdy, though a few planks leaned inward from years of rain. My fingers brushed the groove under the master bedroom window, a secret spot I'd carved decades ago when I installed the floorboards. I smiled faintly. Ellen always said I was too sentimental, hiding things like a movie character. But that hidden safe had served us well. I'd tucked a few documents inside back then. Deeds, family records, a small insurance bond. Nothing extravagant. Just security. She was the only one who knew about it. After she passed, I'd never thought about it again. Until now. I stood there a long while, staring up at the window, thinking about what I'd left behind. Not just the papers, but the piece of myself that believed this house was unbreakable. When I finally walked back to the truck, I glanced once more at the porch. The morning light caught the paint just right, revealing every small repair I'd ever done over the years. Each fix, each brushstroke was an act of love, quiet, invisible, uncredited. I sat down behind the wheel, whispering to the empty seat beside me. You'd laugh at me now, Ellen, sleeping in a truck outside the house I built. Silence. Just the hum of passing cars. Then I looked at the envelope again, still resting on the dash, and said softly, "But maybe you left me the answer in there, didn't you?" My hand hovered over it, but stopped. Not yet. Some things have to open themselves when they're ready. I was dozing off again when a soft tap on the truck window startled me. The sun was higher now, washing the street in pale light. I blinked and saw Mrs. Patterson standing there, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. Her gray hair was pulled back, her old blue cardigan buttoned wrong at the top like always. I rolled down the window, embarrassed. "Morning, Mary." She gave me a small smile. "Morning, James. I figured you'd still be out here." "Just needed some air," I said, trying to sound casual. She handed me one of the cups. "Air doesn't usually come with an overnight stay in your pickup." I sighed. "You noticed." "Sweetheart," she said, shaking her head. "The whole street noticed. You've been sitting out here since last night." I took a sip of the coffee. Black, just how I liked it. Lily and I had a disagreement. Mary leaned against the door. "She's a good girl, James, but she's lost her footing a bit. All this pressure she puts on herself. keeping up appearances, chasing promotions. You know how it goes. I nodded. Yeah, I know. It's just, I thought family was the one thing you didn't have to earn. She gave me that look only old friends can, the kind that's equal parts sympathy and truth. Sometimes people forget who built their safety net until it's gone. Her words stung because they were too right. We stood in silence for a moment, the quiet hum of the neighborhood filling in the spaces. A dog barked 2 houses down. The mail truck passed. Life carried on like I wasn't sitting outside the very home I'd built with my bare hands. Listen, she said finally. I probably shouldn't say this, but I've seen a few cars stop by here lately. Not family, realtors. I frowned. Realtors? She nodded. Pretty sure one of them was from that big firm downtown, the kind that sells quick and high. My chest tightened. She's thinking of selling? I don't know, she said. But people don't tour houses for fun. Maybe she's trying to get out from under the mortgage, or maybe... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. I stared at the porch again, at the chipped paint, the door I'd carved with her initials when she was 16. She'd cried when I gave it to her, said she'd never move out. I guess people change faster than wood does. Thanks for the coffee, I said quietly. Mary squeezed my arm. Don't thank me. Just don't give up on her yet. You've already lost enough, James. She walked back across the street, her cane tapping softly on the pavement. I watched her go until she disappeared inside her house. For a long moment, I sat there staring at the front door, that envelope still sitting on my dash. Realtors. The word rattled around in my head. If she really was planning to sell, she didn't know what she was selling. Not just lumber and drywall, but the last thing her mother and I ever built together. I ran a hand through my hair and whispered, Ellen, if you left me a sign in that letter, now would be a good time to read it. But I still couldn't bring myself to open it. Not yet. Instead, I turned the key in the ignition, listening to the old truck rumble awake. The sound was steady, dependable, real. It reminded me that some things, the right things, are built to last. I looked back at the house one last time and said softly, if she's going to sell it, I need to know what's still mine. That night, I waited until the street went quiet. No cars, no porch lights, just the hum of crickets and the far-off bark of a dog. I sat in the truck for almost an hour, staring at that house, my house, until I finally said to myself, all right, James, once more through the door. The spare key was still where I'd left it years ago, tucked under the third brick near the step. Lily never knew about that. Maybe some part of me always wanted to keep one way back inside. I slipped in through the kitchen. It smelled different now, like new candles, not the coffee and sawdust Ellen used to fill it with. The furniture had changed too, all clean lines and neutral tones. It looked like a catalog, not a home. My boots were quiet against the floorboards as I made my way down the hall. I passed the family photos she'd left up. Most of them didn't have me in them anymore, but one still did. Me holding her when she was 3, her tiny hands on my shoulders, eyes bright like her mother's. I stopped in front of the master bedroom. My hand hovered over the doorknob. That room hadn't been mine since Ellen passed. Still, something in me wanted to see it again. The smell hit first, faint perfume, a little dust, a trace of time. The bed was made perfectly, but it wasn't the same one. She'd replaced everything except the floor. I knelt down by the corner near the window, the one Ellen and I had installed together. I could still hear her voice teasing me. You and your hiding spots, James? You think you're in some spy movie. I smiled faintly and pressed my hand against the familiar groove. The board came up just like it used to, smooth and easy. Beneath it was the old safe, the same small steel box I'd kept locked for years. I'd forgotten the last time I opened it, but my hands remembered the code. Muscle memory, they call it. The safe creaked open, and there they were. 3 envelopes, a bundle of old bonds, and 1 yellowed sheet folded in half. On top, in Ellen's handwriting, was my name. I unfolded the paper. It wasn't long. Just a few lines written the way she used to write grocery lists. Plain, direct, but full of meaning. If you're reading this, it means you've had to remember what we built. The house belongs to Lily now, but not the foundation. You'll find your name still holds the deed. Don't use it to punish her. Use it to protect what's left of us. I sat there for a moment, staring at the words. She'd never told me she left my name on the deed. That meant half this house, legally still mine. I leaned back on the floor, staring at the ceiling. Ellen always planned further ahead than I did. She must have known one day Lily's pride would outgrow her gratitude. I put everything back except the letter. That one I folded carefully and slipped into my pocket. Then I sat there a while longer, listening to the quiet hum of the house. It felt different now, heavier, like it was holding its breath. Then I heard something upstairs. Footsteps. Slow, careful. For a second, my heart jumped, but the sound moved past and faded. Probably just the pipes, I told myself. Or maybe she'd come home early. Either way, I knew I couldn't stay. Not yet. I replaced the floorboard, smoothed it down, and whispered into the empty room. Don't worry, Ellen. I won't let her lose this house. Not even from herself. When I stepped outside again, the moonlight hit the roofline just right. The place looked peaceful. I stood there a while, breathing in the cool night air, before heading back to my truck. On the seat beside me, the envelope for Lily, when she forgets her roots. Waited quietly. And now I had something to add to it. The next afternoon, the doorbell rang. I was sitting in the truck, half dozing, when I saw Lily open the door, and then freeze. "Dad?" she said, her voice uncertain. I got out of the truck slowly, steadying myself on the doorframe. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, arms crossed like she wasn't sure if she should or shouldn't. Finally, she stepped aside. "Sure, I guess." The house was quiet inside, the kind of silence that feels staged, like it's trying to hide an argument. I took off my hat, ran a hand through my hair, and looked around. Same walls, same light, but somehow smaller. She turned toward me, jaw tight. "If this is about last week, I don't want to fight again." I nodded. "It's not about fighting. I just came to talk." She sighed. "I was going to call you, you know. I just needed time." "Time," I said softly. "That's what everyone asks for until they run out of it." She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the folded letter. Ellen's handwriting on the front, soft and faded. "Your mother left this for you." Her eyes widened. "Mom?" I nodded and handed it to her. She took it with trembling hands, tracing the familiar writing with her thumb. For a moment, all the edge in her face melted away. "She wrote it years ago," I said. "Said it was for you, for when you forgot your roots." Lily looked up, her voice small. "Forgot my roots? What does that even mean?" I took a slow breath. "It means forgetting who built the ground you're standing on." She swallowed hard. "Dad, Don't do this. I'm not, I said gently. I'm just telling you the truth. You've been talking to realtors. Her face paled. Who told you that? Mary Patterson, I said. She saw them. She looked away, guilt flashing across her eyes. I was thinking about selling. I can't afford the mortgage, the maintenance. It's too much. I nodded. That house isn't too much, Lily. It's the life inside it that's gotten small. She flinched like the words hit harder than I meant. You think I don't care about this place? About you? I think, I said quietly, you're tired of remembering where you came from because it reminds you you're not there anymore. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was thick, heavy with years of words we hadn't said. Then she broke. I didn't mean to hurt you, Dad. I just felt trapped. I wanted to prove I could make it on my own. I nodded slowly. And in trying to prove that, you pushed away the only thing that ever wanted you to have more than enough. She looked down, tears starting to fall. I know. I'm sorry. I reached out and lifted her chin gently. You don't have to be sorry, kiddo. Just be honest. Your mother and I built this place so you'd always have somewhere to come back to. Not so you'd feel stuck here. She looked at me through glassy eyes. You're still half owner, aren't you? I hesitated. Then I said, yeah, your mom made sure of that. She wiped her face with her sleeve. You could have taken it back. You could have kicked me out. I could have, I said, nodding. But that's not what fathers do. Her breath hitched. What do they do then? They wait, I said, even when it hurts, even when they have to sleep in their truck outside the home they built. Her lip quivered. She stepped closer, voice trembling. Dad, please don't leave again. I smiled softly. I never really left. The room was quiet, except for her sobs. She buried her face in my shoulder, and I wrapped my arms around her like I used to when she was little. For a few seconds, we were just father and daughter again. No pride, no walls, just love and memory. When she finally pulled away, she held her mother's letter close to her chest. Can I read it? Of course, I said. But not right now. When you're ready. I turned toward the door, pausing before I left. And, Lily, don't sell the house. Not yet. She nodded. I won't. As I stepped outside, the porch light flicked on, automatic maybe, or maybe something else. Either way, it stayed on. I looked back once more and whispered, Thank you, Ellen. She heard you. The morning light crept through the blinds, soft and golden. For the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up in my truck. I was on her couch, the one she used to complain I'd worn down when I visited. I could hear the faint sound of the coffee maker dripping in the kitchen. Lily was humming to herself. That same low tune Ellen used to hum when she cooked Sunday breakfast. When I sat up, she turned, surprised but smiling. Morning, Dad. I made you coffee. Her voice was careful, gentle, the way you speak to someone you've hurt but want to love again. Morning, I said. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she replied, setting the mug in front of me. You take it black, right? I nodded. Still remember that, huh? She smiled faintly. I remember everything, even the bad parts. We sat at the table quietly. The clock ticked loud in the background, louder than it needed to. After a minute, she said, I read Mom's letter. I looked up. Her eyes were red, but steady. She said I'd forget where I came from, that I'd mistake independence for distance. She said you'd remind me someday, gently. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She was right, Lily whispered. About all of it. I've been so busy proving I could stand on my own that I forgot who taught me to walk. I took a sip of the coffee, my hands shaking a little. You don't have to apologize, Lily. I'm not just apologizing, she said. I'm asking if you'd stay, at least for a while. I looked around the kitchen. The sunlight was hitting the counter where Ellen and I had once argued over cabinet paint. I could almost hear her laugh in the air, warm, teasing, alive. I don't know if I belong here anymore, I said finally. Lily's face fell. Why not? Because this house belongs to the person you're still becoming, and I'm part of the person you used to be. She reached across the table, her fingers resting on my hand. Then stay long enough for me to find the balance between them. The silence that followed was soft, not the kind that hurt, but the kind that healed. After breakfast, we went outside. The grass was damp with morning dew, and the air smelled of cedar and rain. She knelt by the rose bushes, pulling weeds like Ellen used to. Mom planted these, right? Yeah, I said, crouching beside her. Said they'd bloom better if you talked to them. She smiled through a tear. She was right about everything. We worked side by side for a while, trimming, cleaning, barely talking. Sometimes love doesn't need words, just presence. When we finished, she leaned against the porch railing and said, I told the realtor I'm not selling. I nodded, looking out at the yard. Good. I'm keeping it, she said softly. Not because I have to, because it's still home. The sun broke through the clouds then, spilling light across the porch. The same porch I'd built with Ellen, the same one Lily used to jump off when she was 5, pretending to fly. Now she stood there, grown and grounded, holding the letter against her chest. I miss her, she whispered. Me too, I said. We stood there a while longer, neither of us moving. The air felt full again, like the house had remembered how to breathe. When I left later that afternoon, I didn't take my ring, or the deed, or even the old envelope. I just left one thing, my truck keys, hanging on the hook by the door. She didn't notice at first, but when she did, I knew she'd understand. Because this time, she wouldn't find me outside in the cold. It's been 3 days since that morning on the porch. The roses are blooming again. I saw them when I drove past earlier, red, bright, alive. I didn't go inside. I didn't knock. I just sat there across the street for a few minutes, watching her hang curtains in the window. For the first time in a long time, she looked peaceful. Maybe that's all I ever wanted. Now I'm staying in a small rented room on the edge of town. It's quiet. No pictures on the wall, no memories pressing against me. Just the sound of the clock and the smell of old coffee. The kind of quiet that lets you think, even when you'd rather not. Sometimes I catch myself looking at the empty passenger seat and talking out loud. Like Ellen's still there. I tell her what happened. How Lily finally opened her eyes. I tell her I didn't yell, didn't break. I just told the truth. The kind of truth that sits heavy, but heals slow. I still keep her letter in my jacket pocket. I don't read it anymore, but I can feel the words through the paper. It's strange how something so small can weigh so much. Lily calls me every evening now. Not long calls, just enough to ask if I've eaten, if I'm sleeping okay. It's her way of rebuilding, one question at a time. I always tell her I'm fine. Some lies are mercy. Sometimes I wonder if I should move back in, help her fix up the old shed, maybe tend the garden. But then I think about what Ellen said. Don't use it to punish her. Use it to protect what's left of us. And maybe that's what I'm doing now. Protecting the space between us until she's strong enough to fill it with love again. So I'll end this with a question to you, the ones listening, because I've lived long enough to know that love and pride don't share the same roof for very long. What should I do now? Should I forgive her completely and go back home? Let her take care of me like I once took care of her? Should I keep my distance, let time do its quiet work, and see if she truly understands what family costs to build? Or should I finally let go, not in anger, but in peace, and leave the house, the memories, and her future to her alone? Because I built that house with love, brick by brick. And even after all that's happened, I still love her.